So far, we have started with provisioning the servers. Once the servers are provisioned, we have installed Cloudera Manager on one of the nodes. Once Cloudera Manager is set up on Big Data Server 1, we actually went ahead and set up packages, after which we have set up HDFS and YARN on the cluster using Cloudera Manager. Once we set up HDFS and YARN, we actually went ahead and configured high availability for HDFS name node as well as YARN resource manager. Once that is done, we have set up Spark, and then we actually transitioned our cluster to parcels because adding components like Spark to require parcels. Once that is done, then we have actually gone into the details about setting up additional big data ecosystem components such as Hive, Pig, Scoop, Uzi, Hue, etc. That being said, now it is time for us to actually add two more important services that is categorized under big data ecosystem, which are nothing but Kafka and HBase. We will see how these things can be configured on our cluster using Cloudera Manager. That being said, the agenda for this section is we'll start with Kafka overview. Once we understand what is Kafka, we will see how to set up parcels for Kafka and add Kafka as a service to our cluster. Then we'll validate Kafka by running some important Kafka commands. Then we'll actually get into HBase overview. Once we understand the HBase overview, we'll actually configure HBase using Cloudera Manager on our cluster. Once that is done, to ensure that HBase is set up properly, we will validate and we will actually create a table, insert data into the table, and then query the data from the table. That will ensure that things are set up properly on our cluster. That being said, as part of our cluster topology, we start with 7+1 nodes architecture, where we'll actually set up all the components on 7 nodes first, and then at a later point in time we'll add additional node to the cluster just to understand how a node is added to the existing cluster. That being said, we have Hue server running on Big Data Server 1 along with Cloudera Manager. Big Data Server 2, 3 and 4 are considered as masters. As part of this section, we'll be adding HBase master on 2, 3 and 4. For Kafka, there is no master components and hence we will not be adding anything to the masters. When it comes to slaves, with respect to Kafka, we'll have Kafka broker on all slave nodes, which are nothing but Big Data Server 5, 6 and 7. As part of HBase, we'll be setting up region server on all these 3 worker nodes. So on top of data node for HDFS, node manager for resource manager, Impala daemon for Impala, we will have region server for HBase and Kafka broker for Kafka once we actually add these services to the cluster. However, keep in mind that Kafka is typically set up as an external cluster to big data clusters. However, in our environment, we'll be setting up 3 broker Kafka cluster on worker nodes itself, which means Kafka need not necessarily be on the same nodes which are deemed as worker nodes in our cluster, because Kafka cluster might be small in size compared to big data cluster or even bigger in size compared to big data cluster. Typically, Kafka cluster will be set up as a client to our big data cluster, and it can range anywhere between 6 nodes to 32 or 64 nodes if you talk about large scale clusters. So that being said, let us go ahead and get into the details with respect to adding Kafka as well as HBase to our clusters.